Tropical activity in the Atlantic exploding as we go deeper into August. Multiple areas to watch with potential impacts to land up ahead. Welcome in, folks. Great to see you on this Monday, August 4th, and hopefully we're having an all right start to the week out there. Sure enough, we'll be talking about the tropics today in a big way as we have two areas to watch and a newly named storm finally got Dexter. Told you it was coming eventually, and it has finally formed. We'll be talking about all three of those, and yeah, sure enough, two of them will have the potential at some point down the road here to impact land, including potentially the United States. So I'll give you all the latest data, my breakdown of that data, and everything you need to know about this active pattern. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte, and if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Also consider sharing it with a family member or a friend that you think might be interested, and follow me on social media for the latest there as well, all linked in the description below. Now, let's just go ahead and get right on into it, folks, because we've got a lot to talk about in today's video. Now, we're going to start with a look here on satellite, and you can see two of the areas we're watching here on satellite currently. Right here, what I'm going to circle to start off, this is now Tropical Storm Dexter. Yeah, sure enough, the storm has formed, and luckily for us, this is going to be off on its way to find Nemo in the Atlantic Ocean. Will not be any impacts to land associated with this system. That's the good news. But behind it, the same thing that formed Dexter is a stalled out frontal boundary over the southeast, and we could, sure enough, also get something to form off the southeast coastline and potentially in the Gulf. It's kind of a 1-2, maybe a 1 and a 2 even, I will say, as we go into the week ahead. You'll see that as we start analyzing some of the data here in just a moment. But those are the two areas that are close to home right now. Outside of there, coming off the coast of Africa within a couple of days, we have a very robust wave that we'll also be taking a look at here in a bit. But before we get there, let's go ahead and dive into all these areas that the National Hurricane Center is watching. And you can see, again, here's Dexter. Currently a tropical storm with winds in that 50-mile-an-hour range, and as you can see from the track here, expected to pull on out to sea and not be a problem for anyone as it gets lost into the North Atlantic and eventually runs into cooler ocean temperatures. Now back home, a new area designated to watch here. This was added yesterday, a 30% chance of development anywhere from the Carolina coastline off to the Florida coast. And I'll be honest with you folks, with some of the data we're seeing, you see this little system behind it, that's going to try to sneak into the Gulf and could also maybe try to get going. So I wouldn't be surprised to see potentially this area get extended here off into portions of the eastern Gulf as well, just off of the west coast of Florida. And we'll talk about that again here in the data in just a moment. Meanwhile, out into the Atlantic, we've got another area we're watching. This has a 50% chance of developing over the next week into the main development region. I also told you this region was going to start to get a little bit more active, and sure enough, we are watching an area. Now that one, a lot of question marks left. Could it be a fish storm? It could. Could it move its way towards the United States? It also could. We got a lot of time to talk about that one though, and plenty of time to analyze things. All right, that's an overview. Let's dive on into these systems a little bit closer to home first off, and then we'll take a look at that system out in the main development region. Here's one big reason why I'm slightly concerned here about the potential of anything that may try to get going off the southeast coastline. We're running bathtub water numbers here off the coast of Florida on both coasts, the west coast and the east coast, and then up into the Gulf Stream, seeing water temperatures just plenty warm enough here to support some sort of storm, whether that's a tropical storm or potentially even a hurricane. The water temperatures here are more than warm enough to get something going. So that's kind of one key ingredient here that may support some sort of cyclogenesis. And like I said, that could be off the southeast coast, that could be off the Gulf Coast. We could even maybe try to get two separate storms here, and you'll see that here in the data. Now, another piece of the puzzle here, that is going to support potential tropical development are these upper level winds that we're watching. And we've kind of got a bit of a fanning out of the winds here in the 200 millibar range, which is basically just the top of the atmosphere. Here it is right now. We've got some stronger winds out of the south currently here off the southeast coastline, but as we go into the middle of this week, this being overnight tonight and tomorrow, by the time we get to that Wednesday time frame, and especially into your Thursday and your Friday, notice what happens here right over the Gulf Stream. See how all these arrows are kind of pointed almost in different directions and spreading out from each other? Well, what that creates is a bit of a vacuum in the atmosphere. Whenever you remove air from the top, air from the bottom rises to take its place. that rising motion can help to lead to the formation of lower pressure. And like I showed you earlier, we're doing that right over a very warm part of the Atlantic. And that would be, again, for this Thursday, Friday. Meanwhile, another little upper level area of some divergence going on here that will try to sneak on into the Gulf by the time we get over into the weekend. You can see here, just in general, the southeast coastline over Florida and off the west coast of Florida becoming pretty favorable for potential tropical development by the time we get to the end of this week. Now, the next couple of days, not so much, but really that Wednesday through Sunday timeframe looking like higher end environment for something to form. Now, what about humidity? Is there dry air around here that is going to help us out, or is it running pretty moist, which would help support tropical cyclone formation? Well, right now we've definitely got some moisture out there and some dry air, kind of a little bit of both. It's been a very wet couple of days into portions of the Carolinas, Georgia, and down into the Florida Panhandle. That's going to continue, and we've got plenty of moisture from that. Notice we get a bit of a bump up in moisture. That little wave that I showed you is going to move on in, help to moisten things up, and this is the same time the upper level winds are dying down. So by Thursday, pretty moist. We've got upper level support and we've got warm sea surface temperatures. So that's the 1, 2, and the 3. You got all three of the ingredients here on the table for a potential storm to try to get going. And because of that, we've got that area to watch from the National Hurricane Center. That's the background environment. Let's dive on into some model data here and show you what some of our latest computer models are projecting with the potential of development. This is the latest European model, brand new, just ran this afternoon. And you can see here already we've got a little bit of spin out here, some vorticity in the lower levels, but it really starts to ramp up around that time that the environment becomes more conducive. Here we go by Thursday morning, a well-defined low-level area of circulation off the southeast coastline. And eventually, as we get towards the weekend, the European ramps this up into a borderline tropical storm and brings it right into the Grand Strand of South Carolina and into southeastern North Carolina, this being Saturday morning. So at the end of this work week to start next weekend is when we would need to potentially keep eyes on that, as it then may eventually try to work northward. That's one solution. That's what the European shows. And I also want you to note, though, in that same time frame, as that system pulls north, another area of spin in the Gulf. And at that same time, yeah, we still have favorable conditions for tropical development. So I would not be totally shocked if this pattern doesn't give us just one, but at least multiple chances of some sort of system to form here. And like I showed you, some where we have some of the warmest ocean temperatures. So obviously something that catches your eye. Now, the GFS model, a little bit different here, but kind of the same general thinking. Also, the brand new run of this. And you can see just rainy conditions in general across the southeast. By Friday, we've got an area of spin trying to form here off the South Carolina coastline. Not overly strong in terms of wind, but plenty of heavy rain working into the Carolinas by this weekend. And at that same point, also a little tiny kind of area of spin here over southern Florida trying to get into the Gulf. So you can definitely see both pieces. And, obviously nothing jumping out on these main operational runs that make you think, okay, this could be a really big deal that we need to watch out for. But let me show you this. This is the latest Google AI model. And you can see this is one of the newer things that has been brought here into the world of meteorology and modeling. And look what the Google AI model shows. All these little dots, it's like ensemble members or a suite of ensembles. So it's not showing a bunch of different storms per se, but this is where one storm could be. The AI model has nothing really off the Carolina coastline, but pretty excited about that system over near Florida. This again being by Saturday and Sunday of this coming weekend. A lot of these members getting it up even close to hurricane status and keeping it in the Gulf. So yeah, we need to watch both sides of this. We need to watch the Atlantic side and the Gulf side for that potential of development as we continue looking ahead here over the southeast. So an active time frame there, also active back out in the main development region that we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a look out that way. Well, if you've loaded up Facebook or Twitter or X or any of the social media platforms, I'm sure you've seen over the past 48 hours or so crazy pictures of insane models showing a major hurricane hitting South Carolina or maybe Louisiana or Florida, or pick a state here in the Southeast. We've seen all sorts of things floating around social media. Let's put it into context for you a little bit. This is the system they're talking about. And if you don't know what you're looking at, this is Africa. So this is where the current potential storm is that you've probably seen floating around. Well away, we're talking 10 to 15 days away from any sort of U.S. impacts. Now, do I say that to make it sound like we don't need to watch it at all? Absolutely not. But I say that so you know we've got plenty of time to watch it. And sure enough, yeah, some of the models out in Fantasyland are getting excited about this. But if you've been watching so far this hurricane season, we've had fantasy runs already for systems that really did not turn into much of anything. So a lot of time to watch this, and I'll give it credit. This is a pretty impressive looking wave off of Africa. And if it maintains this look as it gets into the main development region, absolutely something we will need to watch. Now, let's show you some of those crazy runs that you've already probably seen elsewhere. And again, I'll put it into context here. We're going to keep the map right here. I'm not going to show you the Gulf. I'm not going to really show you much of the United States here. But this is the latest European model run right around 9 or 10 days from now. And here is that system forming into a tropical storm and getting into, generally an area closer to the Antilles by, again, this would be around the 14th or 15th of August, nearly 10 days from now. And it does strengthen it pretty quickly into a hurricane and gets it towards the islands. Now, this is more than 10 days away. I'm going to stop it here. You get the idea, though. Generally speaking, this would probably keep on moving out towards the west. Excuse me, I had to think about the compass rose in my head there. Never eat soggy waffles, right? The GFS model, though, kind of different. I mean, it has the system here, almost a different system, actually. This is a little bit sooner. This is the current area that the National Hurricane Center is watching. It doesn't do much with it here on the GFS. And you can see it kind of tries to get it going and then, fizzles it out a little bit. And some runs have blown that up into something big. And then later on into time, you don't see much more on the GFS. So we've got plenty of time to figure things out here. Now, the area I showed you earlier on that National Hurricane Center map is actually before the system I showed you in Africa. That's one that is currently already rolled off and has the chance to become something. So plenty of time to keep monitoring these waves. Now, this is one reason we do need to watch it. I'll show you this. This is some of our steering flow according to the European ensembles. And as we go later on into this month, we're going to have a pretty strong Bermuda high. Now, around 5 or so days from now, later this week, we are going to get a bit of an opening here in the Atlantic for the current system being watched by the National Hurricane Center to probably pull out to sea. Not guaranteed, but likely pull out to sea. And that could become a fish storm. After that, though, the way that some of the fantasy runs have been showing, like the European run I showed you, are getting into a time frame that the Atlantic kind of closes off any sort of exit ramps. You can see here, right around that 10-day time frame, pretty big high pressure here, and that would keep anything that forms generally on a track towards land, whether that be the islands or even the United States well on down the road. Absolutely something that would need to be watched. But I think that first storm, that 50% area, most likely a fish storm, not guaranteed, but most likely. It's after that, though, towards the middle of the month, that maybe our eyes need to turn a little bit more towards that main development region. But I think in the near term, really, it's the homegrown stuff that we're watching and not so much what's happening way out here, not the other side of the world, but a pretty good way across the globe. All right, let's give you a couple more maps here in the tropics, and then we'll take a look at things going on back home. Everyone's favorite, we've got spaghetti, we've got ensembles, we've got it all. Here's the latest European run. We'll start with back home. Again, a lot of members, something off the Carolina coastline, trying to bring that up into North Carolina or South Carolina or the Mid-Atlantic. Some new members, though, trying to get that little pesky system into the Gulf going. So plenty to watch back home over the next 7 days. I think that's the most pressing issue right now here in the tropics. Elsewhere, 2 other signals. We've got the first signal. This is the one that NHC has tagged as an area to watch. Most members from the European ensembles that form that pull it on out to sea. And then you notice to the south, a different cluster, that's the Fantasyland 10 days from now storm that maybe would have a better shot at getting further west across the Atlantic. That's the European ensembles. The GFS ensembles, pretty similar here. It's got some members forming that system off the Carolina coast. Now, with the first storm, the GFS not taking that exit ramp as much. Here it is, a lot more members keeping it a little bit further south. something to watch, an outlier right now, but something to watch. And again, we'd have plenty of time to watch it. And of course, you can come back every day for the latest information. And then out in that 10-day range, the GFS having a couple members also forming something. So either way, let's go over the key summary here. Homegrown potential soon. We need to watch that. The Dexter name finally taken. That one out to sea, not a problem. And then 2 areas to watch out in the main development region. The first one, likely a fish storm if it forms at all. Not guaranteed, but likely. The second storm around the middle of the month, something I think that we might need to watch a little bit more, as it'll have a higher end chance of getting towards the United States. So that's your update on the tropics. I know it's a lot, but it's that time of the year. Let's swing on back home now and talk about some rain on the way, some cooler temperatures, and when a lot of us, unfortunately, are going to warm back up. Back home, some of us getting active weather, others really not so much. The southeast continues to soak, and I'll tell you, as a meteorologist in Charlotte, it's like banging my head against a wall trying to forecast these things. Models all over the place, and that's typical with these kind of CAD-like setups. Yesterday, I started my shift. I had basically what ended up happening today with rain in the evening and then getting up around 80. Then at the end of the shift, right at the very end of the 10 o'clock news, I quickly scrambled, changed it to more of a rainy day, and that ended up not happening so much here in Charlotte, but definitely happening in the upstate of South Carolina. Like I said, the model's struggling with this, and because of that, we need to be cautious for some flooding potential over the coming days as this rain continues, plus any potential tropical trouble on top of it would definitely be a recipe for an active stretch of higher end flooding potential. Elsewhere, we do have some smoke up into the northeast and the Midwest. Canadian wildfire season rolling on through with some of that upper level energy bringing it on in. Be careful of that. Obviously, air quality alerts up here in the gray boxes due to that. And then back out into the plains, we've had a pretty active ring of fire northwest flow type event with some severe weather out this way. And you can see all of it quite well on our upper level flow map here with the mid-level vorticity or mid-level energy slash spin slash whatever you want to call it. And here we go. We'll pick up on tomorrow morning and afternoon. We've got this kind of trough stuck here over the east. That's what has allowed pretty active weather and well below average temperatures into portions of the southeast, and also what could help to kind of scoop up some of that energy from the Atlantic and bring it northward into the Carolinas and mid-Atlantic by this weekend. Meanwhile, big high pressure over the desert southwest. That's bringing sharp flow out of the north. We had a crazy supercell in Kansas yesterday. More of that on the way. Up north, more storminess, more pieces of energy swinging through the Dakotas, Minnesota, up eventually into Wisconsin, where we will see some active weather there this week as well. And then the Northeast kind of sandwiched in between all of this, where we're getting cooler, or maybe not cooler, but drier conditions and starting to heat back up after what was a cooler time frame. I will show you the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model, and we're going to kind of swing through this a little bit quickly. In the name of time. But notice overnight tonight, rain in the upstate of South Carolina into the western portions of North Carolina. I think starting to rain again in Charlotte this evening, up into Hickory, Statesville, and then rain really just continuing for a lot of folks who have already seen it. Watch for flooding here. I-85 corridor from northeast Georgia up into western North Carolina. Be careful of that. Again, the models have trended a little bit wetter this week, so we need to be mindful in an area that is obviously hit hard by Helene not long ago. Have a way to get watches and warnings should flooding become a concern. It very much could be. Tomorrow looks like a pretty wet day for some of us. And again, I say some of us. It's a small area, but if you're getting it, you're getting it. That's Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, up into the Triad, and potentially even into the PD. Elsewhere tomorrow, a beautiful day into the Northeast, into the Midwest. A lot of folks seeing a nice day, and then some storminess returning to the Dakotas on your Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday afternoon, you could see more rain in the Carolinas. Energy trying to build off the southeast coast. Still dry in the Northeast, but rain returning to portions of the Midwest. So that's kind of the near term. Let's move it out in time a little bit, talk about temperatures, rainfall, and what you can expect by the middle of the month. Well, Tuesday afternoon, we could break some records for record cold high temperatures up, or I should say down into portions of the southeast. You can see that blue maintaining itself. A rainy, cool day to start this August 5th for tomorrow, that is. Elsewhere, though, by the time the week wears on, we're going to start to warm up for a lot of us. The Northeast, the Plains, out into the Rockies, starting to definitely get back to more typical August-type stuff. Remaining chillier down into the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, where rain continues to be a common sight here for for your Thursday. Keep it going, and that's the common theme, folks, really, for the next 7 days. Warming up in the plains, the Midwest, the Northeast, staying cool and wet down into the Southeast. I keep the map going ahead in time, but you get the point. I think for at least the next 7 days, that looks like a common idea here across the map. Rainfall. This is just the next 7 days. Watch for flooding. Again, like I said, into the Southeast, especially upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, down into the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, and then elsewhere, wherever this tropical trouble goes, obviously increasing a rainfall threat, which will increase a flooding threat. The Northeast, looking pretty dry for this week, up into the northern plains and the Midwest. Rounds of storms going to be coming your way, really more of what we've seen all summer long, and then relatively dry down into portions of the southern plains, including Arkansas there, and portions of the interior of Louisiana. What's to come? Well, 6 to 10 days out from now, you can see a warming trend on the way, especially up into the Northeast and Midwest, staying around average down into the Southeast, where, again, an unsettled pattern kind of locks in. The precipitation forecast on top of this, I think it just remains pretty unsettled across much of the central and eastern portions of the country. Could remain a bit drier up into the Northeast, and then down into the Southeast, tropical trouble going to continue to increase the chance of rainfall, and that stalled out frontal boundary not helping at all either in the next 6 to 10 days. So that's your update on the weather for this Monday. I'll be back tomorrow with another update. And again, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Y'all have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you all tomorrow.